Wish it could be fandom every day. Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Are you feeling charitable? Then smash the subscribe button and the like button, and please do follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Sunday's edition of the DC Multiverse Daily. And wasn't I correct in retitling the show we do here every day, because it is no longer just about the DCEU, it is about the multiverse. Are you a fan of the 1960s Batman? Yes. Are you a fan of the 1950s Superman with George Reeves? From 2022, it's all going to be damn canon, and it is amazing. Yes, welcome to the DC Multiverse Daily, and we are going to start talking about, very, very shortly, about what Barbara Machete has been talking and saying about Flashpoint. And it's not just about the actual movie. She's talking about rebooting and rewriting the entire DCEU, which is a very controversial choice by DC, Warner Media and AT&T. The music you just heard was Tom Hokenberg's, the wonderful, fabulously talented Junkie XL's theme for Zack Snyder's Justice League. Because yesterday we had DC Fandom Part 2, and he showed up on a little panel and he played us a little snippet from his Justice League theme. This is totally Zack Snyder. This is what a Zack Snyder film should sound like and does sound like. What a disgusting thing it was that Whedon and Warner Brothers, the old regime, actually removed Tom from doing the music. But of course, they wanted to marvelise the DCEU, which absolutely failed. And I definitely want in the comments down below I want you to give this theme a mark out of 10. What do you think about it? Do you prefer it to the Justice League theme we got in Justice League? Let me know. My personal thoughts are, it's growing on me more and more each time I hear it. I think it's wonderful, and it's definitely more in tune with the tone, with what Zack Snyder does with his films. So absolutely fantastic. I absolutely loved it. And of course I was going to play it here. I cannot wait. Hopefully when they do another trailer, this music is on it. Very, very exciting. I never expected Tom to turn up at DC Fandom Part 2. So that, my friends, was very, very exciting. I am happy to have Tom back. Welcome back, Tom. Welcome back to the DCEU. Welcome back to the Snyderverse of the DCEU. I'm so very excited you're back. And I'm so happy to be hearing your dulcet tones yet again. Barbara and Andy Machete, you really have lit the blue touch paper, because we now know Flashpoint 2022 is more than just a Flash origin movie. Barbara Machete yesterday confirmed there'd be loads of other DC characters. Now, I predicted weeks back, as you know. Again, I'm right. You told me I was wrong, everyone, and I was right again. Never doubt Mad Mickey. Never doubt Big Mouth. And believe what I say. It doesn't matter how many people are liking me and following me. It doesn't mean I'm not connected to this industry. You lot have got to spread the word about me. I was right. So let's read what Barbara had to say. So Screen Rant have covered this. The Flash movie will include a lot of DC characters. A lot. The Flash solo movie starring Ezra Miller will include multiple DC characters on top of Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton's versions of Batman. Like that's not enough. Ezra Miller's solo The Flash movie will feature a lot of DC characters after debuting in the DC Extended Universe. In Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, Miller's version of Barry Allen is finally gearing up to star in his own films. Warner Brothers and DC have been developing the project for years, and it hasn't been easy. The Scarlet Speedster will now see his movie directed by Andy Machete and travel across the multiverse in a storyline that will be loosely based on Flashpoint. What's amazing about this film, it's a bit like Flashpoint itself. It's going to have many other DC characters. This has many other DC creators behind it. What you're going to find out later on is a lot of comic book writers will be involved. not just Jeff Johns, but he'll be involved behind the scenes quietly. But there's so many other people developing this, from Warner Media, AT&T, everyone's involved, because this is the one that resets and reboots the DCEU. Like many other superhero movies, The Flash will include more characters from the comics than just its lead. But we have to be clear about this. A DCEU origin movie hasn't done this before. I don't know if you want to call BVS a Batman origin movie. It's not really, is it? But apart from that, there's been very few crossovers. I know Shazam had fake Cavill Superman, but mainly it's pretty much been standalone, apart from BVS, of course. But then again, then you can sit me down and say, but Mick, what about Suicide Squad? Yes, when Snyder's vision and franchise was being done, they were doing a few crossovers, you're right, but not on the scale of what DC, AT&T and Warner Media are proposing here. It was previously announced that Michael Keaton is returning as Batman, thanks to the multiverse, in a surprising twist. Though he won't be the only Batman to appear, Ben Affleck is also bringing his version of the Dark Knight to the Flash, despite the belief that he was done with the role. So far, the two versions of Batman are the only other characters besides Flash confirmed to be in the film, but more will appear. That's extremely exciting. A Q&A with the cast and crew behind The Flash was featured as part of the second day of DC Fandom, and new details about the movie have been revealed. One of the questions was directed towards producer Barbara Machete and asked for more information about the movie. She was hesitant to reveal too much about the film so that people will still go see it when it eventually is released. Well, obviously, even if you told us everything, we still flipping well go and see it, Babs. But Barbara did indicate that The Flash and the two Batmen aren't the only DC characters who will appear. Listen to this. Well, I want you to go see it, so I'm not going to tell you a lot. But what I will tell you is that it's a ride. It's going to be fun, exciting, and there are a lot of DC characters in it. Flash is the superhero of this film because he's the bridge between all of these characters and the timelines. And in a way, it restarts everything and doesn't forget anything. We're going to come back to this. We're going to reread this. Thanks to how long The Flash has been in development, there have been countless rumours about what other DCEU stars might appear in the film. For a while, it appeared Jeffrey Dean Morgan would return as Thomas Wayne, Flashpoint Batman, but the movie has gone in a different direction. There were also reports that Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman was going to appear many years ago. Ray Fisher's Cyborg was long thought to have a place in the film, but that could be less likely given his ongoing battle with Warner Brothers. That's not true. It was reported last week. It came out of Ray's mouth. He is in negotiations to be in Flashpoint. He will be in Flashpoint. He is the DCEU Cyborg. It doesn't matter what's going on. They can't remove him. It would just confirm what Ray's saying about them. The possibility of other DC characters appearing in The Flash isn't just limited to those who are currently part of the DCEU, though. Barbara Machete even teased that their take on the Flashpoint story allows for the film to include past versions of DC characters. Yes, it's like what I was saying at the top of the show about 1960s Batman, 1950s Batman. It's all part of the multiverse now. This is already happening with Keaton's return, but other previous DC stars could make appearances too. They will. There's also the certainty that Flash will introduce new DC characters to the big screen, so fans should get a mixture of new familiar heroes and villains in 2022. This is a very, very ambitious project, and I want to reread what Babs said. Sorry for calling you Babs. I'm British. Forgive me. I'll make you a cup of tea and some cucumber sandwiches. Right. I want you to go see it, so I'm not going to tell you a lot. But what I will tell you is that it's a ride. It's going to be fun and exciting, and there are a lot of DC characters in it. There are a lot of DC characters in it. Flash is the superhero of this film because he is the bridge between all of these characters and timelines. In other words, it may be called The Flash, but he's important because of what he can do and how he can help us reboot this franchise without cancelling it. And in a way, it restarts everything and doesn't forget anything. It restarts everything and doesn't forget anything. Now, so The Flash is important. It's his film. It's his story. Let's be absolutely clear about this. It's got his backstory. It's going to have the reverse Flash. But from what they're teasing here, this is massive. This is the biggest superhero project of all time. There's no question about this, everyone. This is what was rumoured after Justice League, that they would reboot the DCEU. But what a powerful, imaginative way to reboot the DCEU. She's pretty much said it. They're rebooting it, relaunching it, restarting it, but not forgetting anything. This allows them to do what they've wanted to do for a very, very long time. Where does this leave the Snyderverse? Well, this is the thing. What can it do? What will it do? Look, the multiverse in the comics works a very, finite way, if you like. So if you look at it, basically the Snyderverse could be trapped in another Earth. Anything is possible here. But what they're saying is that there could be new superheroes in this film and people from the past. Tom Welling's Smallville. Why not? The Cyborg from Doom Patrol. Why not? We are going to see a lot of things. Now, admittedly, a lot of these DC heroes will probably get little cameos, but that doesn't matter. After all, it is a damn Flash movie, right? But it just shows you, she's talking about restarting the DCEU. And I think it's the responsibility of myself and other people with these platforms, whether they're small platforms like mine or large platforms, to analyse this. It's massive. It's so important that everybody understands what's happening here. They are rebooting the DCEU. And, it's a massive thing. Now, in the animated movie Justice League Dark Apocalypse, the Flash restarts the universe again. He has the ability to do that via a flashpoint, from what he can do via his abilities. I believe the Flash will do exactly the same thing in Flashpoint. He will restart the DCEU. He will restart this universe. So this can allow them to have different actors as Superman, as Batman. Listen, we've got a brand new Batman, but that's set in another universe. But it looks like this is pretty big. And it looks like, Phoenix's Joker could cameo in this. They all could. This is massive. This film is going to show us that there is a multi-Earth, multiple Earths, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Earths, maybe thousands. I don't know. I'm not an aficionado of the multiverse, right? And someone who reads the comics more deeply than I do can let me know how many Earths there actually are. But what we're going to see here is not every single Earth, because that's not possible. But they're just going to show us some of the Earths they want to focus on. But as I said, things like Tom Welling's Clark Kent, this allows Rosenbaum's Lex Luthor. They can do literally anything with this. And if they get this right, and they have to get this right, because literally, in a way, it's like, let's just say there was never a Man of Steel and we started off with this Flashpoint movie. It would be a bit like this. But this is more powerful because we've taken Man of Steel to our hearts. BVS, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, right? Forget Justice League. That doesn't exist. We're getting the real Justice League movie, even though even Zack said this is kind of an Elseworlds story. So obviously with the negotiations he had with Warner before we got this announcement about the Snyder Cut being released on HBO Max, obviously he was told, listen, you are not going to, this isn't going to be the main Earth. This is not going to be the main world, but we want you. We want your platform. It's obvious people want it. And HBO Max is perfect for your universe. And he's already said it himself when he was talking to us. He said that, the expanded DCEU, he's not really concentrating on that. He's concentrating in the universe of Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman and his Justice League movie and beyond. That's his little window. Now, what's interesting about this? So after Flashpoint 2022, where is the Snyderverse going to be? Is it still part of the DCEU? Is Cavill's Superman and Affleck's Batman? I mean, they're all going to be in Flashpoint. But the thing is with Flashpoint and with resetting the universe and everything, Barry's going to reset every single Earth, right, basically, which opens a pocket to the multiverse. That's the whole thing. So Cavill's Superman doesn't have to be forgotten, but will he still exist? Or is there a way he'll be on HBO Max? As I say, they could be in a little pocket universe. Just call it HBO Max verse, right? So these are things that I'm going to be talking about a lot from now to 2022. As I say, this is massive. This is a reboot. This is a clever reboot because they're not rebooting this franchise and saying that never happened. They're saying we rebooted it and these things still happened, but we're going forward with something a little bit different now. And what Flashpoint 2022 is, just imagine this is kind of the new beginning of the DC extended universe, right? The first movie is going to have crossovers among crossovers among crossovers. Gusting's The Flash will be in this. We could even get a cameo from Stephen Amell's Arrow, even though he's kind of dead. They can do something here. We can have a flashback of him. There's lots of. We're going to get a lot. We are going to get a lot. This is a very, very ambitious movie. I hope Andy Muschietti and his sister Barbara can handle this. This is a massive project. They are resetting. They are resetting the DCEU. I fell out with a Forbes journalist a couple of years ago when he said they're going to reboot it, and I apologise to that person. They are going to reboot it, but in a very clever way. Have no doubt that these people have been thinking about what to do after Justice League for the past 3 years and how they can integrate Snyder's universe and all the other universes, but creating a central universe that attracts the mainstream. The problem with the Snyderverse is the problematic element of it was rejected by the mainstream audience. I love it, you love it, but we have to be honest about that. And we can argue about its merits on Twitter till we're blue on the face and on YouTube videos. They don't like it. We love it. They don't like it. What was to be done about that? And what had to be done about that was they had to create this multiverse strategy so everyone gets a pocket of what they want. We still have had no announcements about a Cavill Superman movie or projects. We don't know what they're planning with Batfleck. Potentially this could be Batfleck's last adventure. Hopefully not. Hopefully he gets something on HBO Max. I've got a little article about what he was going to do with The Batman movie and Deathstroke in a minute. It's an article from Screen Rant, and we will read it out. Along with a few other tidbits I'll be reading out about DC Fandom Part 2. But there you have it, everyone. The DCEU is being rewritten. It's come out of Barbara Muschietti's voice herself. She said it. They're resetting things, but they're not forgetting anything. That creates so much potential and excitement for me. I don't know what to do or what else to say, but I can absolutely assure you here on Big Mouth and the DC Multiverse Daily, and what a name, what a title, the DC Multiverse Daily. It is the multiverse now. It's not just the DCEU anymore. So this show deserves to be called that and really embrace what they're doing, what Jim Lee and Walter Hamada are attempting to do, because it's genius. And if they do it properly and it pays off, this could be the biggest, most ambitious franchise of all time. If you're a Harley Quinn fan, you've always debated with other Harley Quinn fans. Is she a good guy? Is she a villain? Is she evil? So Margot Robbie responded to this on her little Harley Quinn panel at DC Fandom Part 2 yesterday, and she said she's not evil, but she's definitely bad, and she's most certainly not good. I think that ends the debate, and that's a bit of a shame because it's always good to have heated debates, isn't it? But I think she's right. She's not. No, Harley Quinn isn't evil. Harley Quinn is clearly mentally ill. Harley Quinn is very disturbed and she does some terrible things, but she's not evil. And that's how I would describe the character. A fabulous character. She also says she hasn't tapped nearly half of what she wants to with Harley yet. So that's very exciting. She was asked about what differences from Birds of Prey and David Ayer's Suicide Squad, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, would give to her character. And she didn't really want to talk about that, but she did say she liked the different ways that different directors have tackled her character. I think that was very diplomatic, by the way. She was very glowing with praise for David Ayer and Kathy Yan. And I think people are going to celebrate what James Gunn's done with Harley. I really do. And I really get the feeling he's going to be writing and directing Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn for a very long time. Now, how Justice League's original post-credit scene set up Ben Affleck's The Batman. Zack Snyder's Justice League originally had different version of the Deathstroke post-credit scene. Now, I didn't notice till I read this. Here's how it set up Ben Affleck's The Batman. Zack Snyder's Justice League originally had slightly different post-credit scene. One which set up Ben Affleck's The Batman. Now, what's interesting, will we get this post-credit scene? And if we do in Zack Snyder's Justice League, does this mean we are getting more Batfleck? Very interesting. Before leaving the production, Snyder was going to use Justice League's ending to set up multiple upcoming DC movies. But the studio enforced reshoots helmed by Joss Whedon, completely changing Snyder's vision. The final product saw a direct setup for Aquaman, teases for The Flash and Green Lantern, Corps, and more eliminated or altered. Wow, what a shame. What a tragedy that these clowns don't know what they're doing. Justice League's post-credit scene was among the many scenes in Justice League that Warner Brothers and Whedon changed. The theatrical cut of the movie shows Lex Luthor now free from prison on a yacht where he meets up with Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke. The quick scene has Lex mention how he wants to form a league of villains to combat the rise of the Justice League, and it appeared the Legion of Doom could be part of the DC Extended Universe's future. That tease has yet to pay off, but it also wasn't what Snyder had planned. The full details of Snyder's version of the Lex and Deathstroke scene have yet to be revealed, but it is believed that the original purpose was direct setup for the Batman. Lex originally had a larger role in Justice League that they may have included Batman visiting him in Arkham Asylum and taking his notes about Darkseid. Actually, that's pretty much, I think, that's what we're going to see in Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I think we've already been told that by Jesse Eisenberg himself. Mother boxes, metahumans, and so on. Now that he's free, Snyder's version of the scene is expected to feature Lex hiring Deathstroke to assassinate Batman, providing a clear piece of setup for the version of the Batman Affleck was, at the time, set to write, direct, and star in. During the original production of Justice League, Affleck confirmed that Deathstroke was going to be the main villain of the Batman. He shared a video of the costume at first, and it was quickly announced that the tease was because the deadly assassin was part of Affleck's The Batman script. Joe Manganiello was later hired to play Deathstroke in multiple movies, but Affleck never revealed too many details about the exact plot of The Batman. However, since it has been confirmed that Whedon reshot the Lex Deathstroke scene for Justice League, it becomes increasingly clear that Snyder's version of it set up the solo movie. Even though Affleck's The Batman isn't happening, or so we think, since Matt Reeves is rebooting the character with Robert Pattinson and he's returning as Batman in The Flash, there's still a chance that fans will get to see the original Justice League post-credits scene soon. The Snyder Cut of Justice League will be released on HBO Max in 2021. Yeah, pretty much what we need to know. So, interesting. I didn't know. I wasn't ever sure if that post-credits scene with Deathstroke and Luthor was Zack's baby or it was Whedon's baby. I'm assuming Whedon reshot it like he reshot most things. And it proves that Whedon was planning something a little bit different with Deathstroke, with Lex. Obviously, what were they going to do? They weren't going to do Ben Affleck's The Batman. They got rid of Ben, right? They wanted to get rid of Ben. And I think they wanted to get rid of Henry Cavill. Joss Whedon wanted to cast new people. He wanted to create a new universe. And unfortunately, the lack of success of his Justice League movie, or fortunately, should I say, watch my words, meant he couldn't do that. But anyway, it will be interesting to see if we do get a post-credit scene with Deathstroke, with Lex Luthor, hiring Deathstroke to kill Batman. Maybe that could mean that Ben will finally get to do his Batman movie or television series exclusive on HBO Max. Only time will tell. Talk about James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Screen Rant Riot. Suicide Squad 2. Why Task Force X, Starro, and not Justice League? The Suicide Squad's terrible bad guys were handpicked to fight new DCEU villain Starro because the Justice League were just too valuable to risk. I will be honest, I've never heard of Starro, but it looks like this is going to be the villain in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Here's why the Suicide Squad will set James Gunn's team of terrible villains loose against the DCEU's new villainous threat, Starro. Rather than the Justice League being called upon, the alien invader who uses star-shaped spore drones to body snatch the victims is a threat, unlike any faced in the DCEU to date, in terms of the threat he presents to an entire planet. While Enchantress had similar body snatching powers in David Ayer's Suicide Squad, they seem to be a side effect of her plan rather than its major focus, which was instead another omnibus skybit. The first footage for James Gunn's soft reboot of the Suicide Squad franchise was shown as DC Fandom's event, confirming who each of the cast, including Margot Robbie, Idris Elba, Nathan Fillion, John Cena, Jay Courtney, are all playing, and also the scale and scope of the film. The teaser footage was accompanied by the promise that Suicide Squad will be like a 1970s war movie, and accidentally seemed to confirm that Starro is the main villain, so this hasn't actually been officially confirmed, but let's go with it. I think it could be true. The alien invader will seemingly come to Earth and initially attack the home country of Joaquin Cosío's General Macho Suarez, whose call for aid leads to Amanda Waller and the US government sending Task Force X to deal with the threat. But the real question here is why an alien threat would be dealt with by a team of no-hopers and reprobates rather than the collective might of the Justice League. The answer is probably that the Justice League's powers are exactly why they can't fight Starro. As in the comics, Starro's powers are formidable on their own, but the giant alien creature requires a drone army to do his bidding. The solution to that requirement comes in form of Starro's asexually created spores, and in that Starro's will like ships responding to a mothership. The spores are parasites which attack themselves to the faces of their enemies, hijack their nervous system and take control of them. In short, Starro is capable of creating an exponentially vast army of servants with only access to host bodies required. And that's exactly what his role as the Suicide Squad villain will probably entail. Naturally, with Earth filled with mostly vulnerable human bodies ripe for hijacking, it makes sense that the alien has set his one giant eye on an invasion. This, of course, isn't the first alien threat that has come to the DCEU. Zod came in Man of Steel, Doomsday followed in Batman vs Superman, and then Steppenwolf led the theatrical cut of Justice League. We don't want to talk about that, replacing part of his backstory in the Snyder Cut. Even Suicide Squad's Enchantress was a sort of interdimensional alien spirit that came to Earth thousands of years ago, but in 3 of those 4 cases, actual superheroes were sent to protect the planet, because they were obviously the best people for the task. Both Doomsday and Steppenwolf were so formidable that they took not just superheroes, but combined and consciously focused teamwork of the heroes to overcome them. The problem with Starro, though, is that if the Justice League were sent to deal with his invasion, they would be presenting themselves not as an obstacle, but an opportunity. Each member of the Justice League represents potentially formidable addition to Starro's army. This is a good point. With only body-snatching spores standing between their devoted heroism and them turning their powers against the Earth. In short, the Justice League can't afford to fight Starro because the Earth cannot afford to have to fight the Justice League. That's a very good point, actually, and I like the kind of justification for not having the Justice League there. But at the end of the day, you can't have them there at the end of the day because then there's no point of the Suicide Squad. And we want a Suicide Squad movie. We're getting Zack Snyder's Justice League. We're getting the Justice League back in the Flashpoint movie, which is really exciting. We never knew that was going to happen. And how awesome is that? Finally today, we are going to read an article about Superman and Lois, and there's loads of news about that show. And I'm very excited we're finally having a Superman TV show on our screens. At least we get to see Superman in live action in some form. And I do believe he's very integral to Walter Hamada's and Jim Lee's multiverse strategy. Now, in other news that was announced at DC Fandom Part 2, we heard that Doom Patrol Season 3 is happening. Yes, it's been announced. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. It was always going to happen. Listen, Doom Patrol has changed the game because in an era of the cultural war in film and in television, and angry women demanding female this and female that and representation this and representation the other. Actually, what I love about Doom Patrol, it represents obviously women very strongly, Crazy Jane and many other female characters. You've got good male characters coming together. It's very representational, but what it does most importantly, it entertains and captivates the audience. It's a fantastic show. It's changed the game. It will be exclusive to HBO Max. Of course it is. It's one of the most popular DC shows out there. It's probably the best. So they want it on their platform. It's very important to have whatever they can to get subscribers for HBO Max because they want this to succeed. No, they're desperate for it to succeed. Right, on to Superman and Lois. Superman and Lois moved back to Smallville after a tragic event in upcoming shows. So they did have their own panel yesterday on DC Fandom Part 2, but there were a lot of technical difficulties where I was with my internet. I don't know if it was my internet or it was something to do with DC, but anyway, let's read what this is all about because I'm so interested in this. In the Superman and Lois panel at DC Fandom, showrunner Todd Helbig says that the pair will move to Smallville from Metropolis following a tragedy. Now, I think that's a pretty exciting place to start a new series. Superman and Lois will see its titular characters head back to Smallville following a terrible tragedy. The CW series was announced in early 2020 and will premiere in 2021 as part of the greater Arrowverse. While DC Universe fans may be familiar with Henry Cavill and Amy Adams in the roles of Superman and Lois, respectively, Superman and Lois is shaking things up. Instead, Superman will be played by actor Tyler Hoechlin, and while Elizabeth Tulloch will star in the role of Lois Lane, although the CW has remained largely quiet on major plotlines for the show, the series will spend some time focused on Clark and Lois' roles as parents. More specifically, this means that Super Sons Jonathan and Jordan Kent are also set to be on the show as well, although they will appear as teenagers. Now, I actually like this element because I think one of them has superpowers and one of them doesn't. And, you know, it's obviously there's going to be some problems between the two brothers, and it's going to be really difficult for Clark and Lois to raise these teenagers. I like this element. It's very different. It is going to be a superhero show. He's going to be saving people and doing all that. But this is the emotional element that Smallville always had in the original Smallville show, right? That's why I loved it so much, because you had the superhero stuff, but you had the emotional stuff, and it worked. I hope they can bring this together really well, because Todd did a great job with Flash Season 1 and Season 2, so I hope he can bring that genius to this show, because Superman deserves it. The Superman and Lois panel at DC Fandom Explore the Multiverse reveals that Clark and Lois will move back to Smallville after a tragic event takes place. Although panelist Jim Lee told Helbing, Hoechlin and Tulloch didn't reveal specifics about the event, showrunner Helbing states that they wanted to follow a narrative where Clark and Lois left Metropolis following the unnamed tragedy. As a result, the pair find that it's easier to raise kids in an area that's far calmer than the big city. Obviously, he's still going to be in Metropolis saving people, but they want to raise their kids in Smallville, where he was raised, because he feels it didn't do me any harm being raised in Smallville, away from the big city, and I didn't go there till I was older. Maybe this is the right thing for my sons. So that's logical. In addition, Helbing says that this narrative decision was based in part on his own life. Helbing explains that he grew up in a small town that had a business leave, which impacted many of the residents as he watched his town begin to dry up. He felt it mirrored many of the events that had occurred since the Great Recession in 2008. In an effort to create a realistic portrayal of current events, you see, this is where you lose me, where we can't have any escapism. We have to keep on talking about current events. People don't want it. People don't want to know what we've had a terrible year. Let us have some escapism. Anyway, he and the team decided to move Clark and Lois back to Smallville. Although this decision to transplant the duo from bustling Metropolis to small-town Kansas might be disappointing for some, I think it will be. It's evident that the move is distinct creative decision, and one that showrunners have thought through carefully. Listen, I'll tell you what I think about that. I don't mind. I think the idea of them moving to Smallville because of a horrible tragedy which I don't know if they're ever going to talk about, or maybe it's the new arc for the whole of the entirety of the Arrowverse, so maybe that's why they're not telling us. But whatever it is, I think it's a good start for a series. So let's see. It'll be hard not to see Superman in his usual stomping grounds of the City of Tomorrow, but it will undoubtedly be interesting to see how the Kents tackle parenting on the farm. Regardless, it seems the show is already determined to bring us a side of Superman and Lois that isn't commonly seen, at least not in the mainstream media. Saving the world is easy, but can the iconic couple from Superman and Lois handle parenting in Smallville? This is ridiculous. Lois, that isn't commonly seen, at least not in the mainstream media. Saving the world is easy. Saving the world is easy. Oh my God. Oh my God. No, saving the world isn't easy, would it? It wouldn't be easy to fight all those supervillains, would it? And I tell you what, I'd rather bring up a couple of teenagers. Anyway, forget about all that. I think it's a good premise. He's still going to save lives. They've got this domestic approach. What I think they're going to do with this is very clever. Because as I said, I was reading it earlier. What they're doing is they're creating an emotional foundation for the show. So then bring up these boys. One's got powers, the other one hasn't. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of kitchen sink drama. Then he has to go and be a hero as well. So what you've got these emotional situations. She's still got to be a reporter. He's still got to be a superhero. And they're bringing up these kids as well in Smallville. And of course, the charm of having the setting as the same Smallville we watched in the Smallville show for 10 seasons is very, very special as well. So I think it's going to be a really, really special show. I'm just happy that Superman's getting a chance to be in live action somewhere, and hopefully we get some movie announcements soon. I believe it will happen. I think because Flashpoint is the resetting of this, everything new will come after that. So it's interesting because if you look at is Aquaman coming out in 2022 or 2023? So you've got that. Right, I know that Batman's in 2021 before Flashpoint happens, by the way. So that's interesting, just before Flashpoint. So it's interesting if they'll integrate anything from the outer universe in that, or we won't see or hear anything from the inclusive shared universe, the shared multiverse, until we see the Flashpoint movie. But in terms of Superman and Lois, I think it's going to be a great show, and I think people are going to love it. I think this show, not unlike the other Arrowverse shows, may have a good emotional foundation. And I think the problem with the Arrowverse shows is they don't have a very emotional core, and undoubtedly that can be an issue. Anyway, are you excited? What do you think of Junkie XL's Justice League theme? What do you think of the news that the DCEU is being rewritten, relaunched, but nothing will be forgotten? I'm excited. Are you? Are you excited about Superman and Lois? This live-action universe is changing, and the Flashpoint movie is going to bring everything together. Comment down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DC Multiverse Daily. See you again soon.